You're watching the legal breakdown. So, Glenn, we've got some devastating news for Trump in the form of newly released confidential testimony from Jenna Ellis and Sidney Powell. Those are Trump's former attorneys during their proffer sessions with Fulton County, Georgia investigators. Now, first of all, the most damning part, Jenna Ellis saying that Trump, quote, would not leave the White House under any circumstance. We're just going to stay in power. So what are the implications of that testimony from Ellis?
This is a knockout blow on the criminal intent front. I mean, there's no way for Donald Trump to maintain even a little glimmer of hope, of convincing people that he lacked criminal intent. Why? Because once you have witnesses, your own lawyers, for goodness sake, saying, you informed everybody that it didn't matter if you lost, you're not leaving, you're not relinquishing power. So this evidence really is something of a knockout blow that can be used to prove Donald Trump's criminal intent once and for all, conclusively, beyond a reasonable doubt. But lest we think it's too good to be true, there's still a caveat, Brian. And the evidence has to be in admissible form. What do I mean by that? Well, Jenna Ellis reportedly said that Dan Scavino, one of Donald Trump's close aides, was the one who was relating this information. Here's the thing. It's hearsay from any other witness except the one who heard it come out of Donald Trump's mouth himself. So when the statement was attributed to Dan Scavino, and there's a really important pronoun in there, she said, Dan Scavino said, we are not leaving. Bingo, because now that incriminates Dan Scavino as well. That will have implications when they are fighting over the admissibility of certain statements at Donald Trump's trial. But what prosecutors really want is the person who heard the admission from the horse's mouth himself. So the minute I heard this reporting, I thought to myself, okay, well, Dan Scavino, we know, together with Mark Meadows, were referred for criminal prosecution for contempt of Congress. I know it seems like ancient history now, but neither one of them were prosecuted. Neither one was indicted for that crime. So maybe Dan Scavino has been cooperating with law enforcement authorities, both Jack Smith federally and DA Willis in the Georgia RICO case. But I'll tell you, this ups the ante with respect to Dan Scavino being brought into the fold. It seems to me like there's probably enough evidence to charge him criminally, but we all know he has not been charged anywhere, not in D.C., not in Georgia. There is a natural inference that we can draw that he may be cooperating with the authorities, because if he has this kind of dramatically incriminating evidence against Donald Trump, and when he was sharing it, he said, we have concluded, according to what the boss said, we have concluded we're not relinquishing power. Well, that puts Scavino right in the criminal mix himself.
Okay, well, as far as firsthand testimony is concerned, what about Powell's testimony that a whole raft of White House lawyers came in and told Donald Trump that he lost, and his conscious decision was to ignore that information and barrel forward with his efforts to steal the election anyway?
That's icing on the criminal intent cake, right? Now we have Sidney Powell, who does have firsthand testimony out of Donald Trump's own mouth, saying, yeah, I know, look, all these lawyers all day long are telling me I lost the election. You see what I have to deal with? Well, what he was having to deal with was reality, the actual fact-based results that he lost the election, and the White House lawyers were telling him so. He didn't want to accept it. So, that really does kind of dovetail with this, new blockbuster information from Jenna Ellis that Trump said he ain't leaving. He ain't relinquishing power. Doesn't matter. And it all sort of harkens back to the statements that we heard Donald Trump make, because some of his own DOJ officials were taking contemporaneous notes, real-time notes of what Donald Trump was saying. And Donald Trump in December, right? This is before January 6th,